Thank you for choosing KTN Prime tonight. I'm Nancy Kachungira. William Silla is our sign language interpreter. President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy William Ruto touched ground at the troubled Mumias Sugar Company, delivering the promised 1 billion shillings as part of attempts to bail out the farmers. Dorcas Wangira starts off our bulletin with exploring what the 1 billion bailout means for those at the first line of cane production, the farmers.
1 billion shillings for Mumias Sugar Company. There are leaders from Kakamega who argue that this bailout is just a drop in the ocean, something paltry and no favor. Some say this is a political gimmick for a region that largely voted for the opposition in 2013, a bailout orchestrated by the Western MPs caucus. But in all the noise and never-ending debate, one key player's voice has been drowned: the ordinary farmers. If Mumias were to completely collapse, it's those who provide its raw material and earn their living from it from the wider Western belt who would suffer the most.
And I want to be very clear. Na tumesema hadhara ya kwamba pesa ambaye tunatoa tunataka muhakikishe hiyo mambo ya deni, hakuna mambo ya deni. Mulipe mkulima pesa yake yote, na kama kuna deni ambaye mko naye kwa vitabu yenu, njooni tukae tujue vile tuta write off, na ndio tuhakikishe ya kwamba mkulima apate haki yake in toto.
Leo sisi tunataka wabunge mlioko hapa mubadilishe sheria. Mkulima wa miwa alipe kabla miwa yake kutoka kwa shamba yake.
That is a promise, and it's time for the farmers to get their dues accrued to 500 million shillings, first in the line before creditors and suppliers and many broken down machines that have to wait. Those we speak to say they have faith in the president. Kasim Shitachi has been growing cane since 1974. He says the company owes him 43,000 shillings.
Hii pesa ninaamini kwamba hivi karibuni tutaanza kulipwa, kwa sababu tumekuwa tukija hapa wakati mwingine tunaitiwa serikali na tupiga, tunafanya maandamano, tunazuiliwa, tumekuwa tukihangaishwa kwa muda sana. Hii si siasa, hii ni kazi. Hii ni kazi, hata kama kungekuwa na rais mwingine. Hii kazi ndio tunayohitaji.
Pesa sonaona kutoka mwaka ulikwisha, hiyo pesa tuchapewa ya miwa. Hata miwa mimi niliwacha kulima mingi, ati ni TRE. Nikasema kama ni TRE wacha nilime kidogo. Sasa hata niko nayo inakaukia kwa shamba.
Once paid, for many, a new cycle of cane growing will continue. But what will happen if Mumias isn't completely operational? As is, no sugar is being produced and only 700 cases of bottled water come off the line per day. The company needs more money for those at the other end of the line.
1 billion shillings, that's the amount of money that has been cashed in for Mumias. But there's still a very big deficit of more than 9 billion shillings. Farmers say until that money is in their pockets, they'll still not be satisfied.
As the dust of the day settles, farmers walk down a path they have long been familiar with. They will be back to collect their dues, hoping that this won't be a shattered promise. In this narrative, they have often been forgotten. But for this bailout, everything isn't all about them, but most of it is. Dorcas Wangira, KTN, Kakamega.
Now, off the back of that report by Dorcas, while the president's bailout has been received with joy by some farmers and residents of Western Kenya, there are those who see it as a well-calculated move to cultivate political support from that critical voting bloc. Though leaders try to steer clear of the usual regional politics, some subtle statements betrayed the underlying currents, as Asha Mwilu now reports.
A big day for the people of Mumias, and an even bigger one for the president. With his deputy in tow, Uhuru Kenyatta was delivering a 1 billion shilling check to boost Western region's only remaining factory, the struggling Mumias Sugar. From a tour of the sugar miller to roadside rallies in Mumias and Shianda, President Kenyatta had a full itinerary in Mumias town.
Hii Kenya hii inatuhitaji sisi zote. Hakuna serikali ya Jubilee na serikali ya ODM, serikali ni ya nchi ya Kenya. Na lazima sisi zote tufanye kazi pamoja.
At the main event, it was all cheers as the check was finally handed to Mumias company. But as the speeches hit high gear, leaders were struggling with the implication of this event to the politics of the region.
Wakati wa siasa ukifika, tutapiga siasa. Lakini wakati wa kushughulikia maslahi ya wananchi wetu hapa, kwetu sisi hakutakuwa na mipaka ya vyama wala mipaka ya kisiasa.
Msimame imara, mkijua maendeleo ni chapter ingine ya maisha. Siasa ni chapter ingine ya maisha. Tusichanganye, lakini kuna njia zitakutana.
The senior politicians from the Western region were very careful in their sentiments, and in fact directed to the populace that, hey, let us focus on development now, but separate development from politics. And the message that the leaders were sending to the people is that, you know what, take the money, but forget working with government.
Although the president was careful to explain his agenda to the residents of this county, his 1 billion shilling bailout has been seen as a hint about the region's future.
The 1 billion shillings is important, yes, but it's a drop in the ocean. It's not what suffices the revitalization of the important sugar company in the Western region. And so, one very shrill message that the president and his deputy were sending to the people of Western region and to the politicians is that, you know what, we can fix this thing, but you got to know where, to put your money where your mouth is.
And even though the day was loaded with subtle political statements,
Najua mambo si mbaya, lakini siku ile mulituonea bwana
when it came to Mumias Sugar, all leaders spoke with one voice.
Najua ya kwamba kuna maeneo Kenya hii ambao sukari inauzwa ikiwa na packaging ya Mumias, lakini ile bei wanalipa huko ni chini kushinda hata hapa Mumias kwa mlango.
I want you, Mr. President, as you consider bringing more money, you pursue the criminals who stole from Mumias na prefect wow.
While Mumias will have to seek more funds to get their house in order, farmers here are hopeful that the president's boost will sweeten things in the region's vital sugar industry. Ashamwilu, KTN.
The politics of Mumias Sugar. Well, that report by Asha Mwilu brings us to our point of interaction with you tonight. On our big Q, we want to know, do you think that the Mumias Sugar bailout is politically motivated? Do you think that the Mumias Sugar bailout is politically motivated? That's our big Q this evening, and you can join this conversation on Twitter. Go ahead and tweet us at KTN News KE at Kachungira, or you can send an SMS to 22155. Start with a yes or no when you do that, and we'll sample some of your feedback later on in this bulletin. Now, as we move on, we follow up on a story that we did focus on quite a bit last night. The Director of Public Prosecutions, Keriako Tobiko, has asked the CID to forward him the files on the National Youth Service fraud once the investigations are complete. Devolution and Planning Secretary Ann Waiguru invited the DCI to investigate Integrated Financial Management Information System fraud at NYS. Ben Katili also reports on a new dossier that points to even more fraud at NYS.
The Director of Public Prosecutions has informed his counterpart at the DCI in Ndegwa Muhoro to expedite investigations into the alleged fraudulent IFMIS transactions at the National Youth Service. Tobiko directing the DCI to forward the resultant inquiry report to his office for perusal and necessary action once the probe is complete. NYS has been rocked by an over 800 million shillings scandal resulting from unauthorized commitment to pay. Details are surfacing of tenders at the NYS that were subdivided into several contracts but issued to the same firms, possibly duplicating tenders and inflating the cost. Documents seen by KTN indicate millions of shillings were funneled to the same companies for supplying the same products but in many subdivisions. According to the documents, on February 10, 2015, Alpha Mercantile was apparently paid 7.4 million shillings to supply 1,000 units of 50 kg bags of sugar. This tender was subdivided into 4. Translation: the company was paid for the supply of 4,000 units of 50 kg bags of sugar. The tender to supply green grams was subdivided between 2 companies, Fresco International Limited and Bora Global Limited. The tender was further subdivided into 4 parts in favor of Bora International at a tune of 15.5 million shillings each. The same was subdivided into 3 contracts for Fresco International at 24.9 million shillings each. The same was replicated for the supply of milk powder for Fresco International Limited. 21.5 million shillings was committed at IFMIS to pay the firm for the supply of 1,000 units of 20 kg milk powder. This particular tender was subdivided into 2, then awarded to the same firm. The document also indicates a tender to supply rice to the NYS, which was given to another company, Things of Desire Limited, in 4 subdivisions at a cost of 22.5 million shillings each. Some of the payment entries were made as late as 7:40 in the evening. And as investigations continue and more details continue to emerge, 184 NYS officials from across 46 counties have come out claiming that the organization has not paid their allowances dating back 6 months.
Tuliambiwa tutapewa pesa kutoka mwaka jana mpaka wa leo. Tunaingia pale kwa ofisi ya Director General, anaitwa Bwana Givenji. Anakosa mpaka wakati wa kuongea na sisi. Sisi ni officers wake, lakini hataki kuzungumza na sisi.
Lakini sisi tunaumia na ile maneno yanaendelea, tunaona ni maneno ya kusema kazi inaendelea mzuri. Lakini sisi tunafanya kazi iendelee, tulipi chochote.
The officials claim the arrears run into millions of shillings, yet NYS is allegedly paying shadowy figures of over 800 million shillings. Ben Kitili, KTN.
More questions around the NYS. Now, you may get a sense of deja vu from this next report because once again we're talking about killer drinks. 4 people have died and 5 others are receiving treatment after consuming illicit brew in Kiandutu area in Thika. Police are investigating the source of the liquor that's said to have been sold to the victims at very low prices on Sunday. Sharon Momanya reports.
At the Thika Level 5 hospital, patients are being rushed into the emergency room after consuming lethal brews. Pain, anguish written all over their faces. 3 have lost their lives.
Kutoka zamani mimi nikunywaga pole pole, lakini sasa hiyo ile shida.
The residents of the Kiandutu slums in Thika are said to have consumed the liquor on Sunday, liquor which they say was sold to them at very low prices.
Nikanunua chupa 3, hii nyingine moja nikaongezewa. Sasa mimi nikaweka hii moja. Mimi nikitoka kazi Monday, mimi nikuja kunywa sasa mimi Monday, mimi sikusikia vizuri.
Pombe inaitwa Napoleons na Milkis. Na rangi yake ni kama kala ya turungi, chai ya turungi. Na nikakunywa jana. Sasa leo sikuweza kuamka. Kapelekwa hospitali na wasamaria wema.
The victims believe the liquor originated from the banks of River Chania. Whether that is where the killer brew was made is yet to be confirmed. 5 survivors are receiving treatment at the Thika Level 5 hospital, with 1 said to be in critical condition. Thika OCPD Erastus Muthamia says that police are investigating the matter. Sharon Momanya, KTN.
Now, the last spate of deaths from illicit brew affected several parts of the country, and the North Rift region was one of those parts. Mercy Kandia now reports from there.
Last year, 28 people died as a result of consuming adulterated alcohol in Nandi and Uasin Gishu counties. It left 50 others hospitalized. What was barely a week after deaths had been reported in central Kenya. Today, we spoke to the County Alcoholic Drinks Control Board, the chairperson Armstrong Rono, who says they are already inspecting vehicles ferrying liquor into the county, and they're calling upon residents of Uasin Gishu County and its environs to also verify the brands that they are consuming, and the distributors to note that they have been licensed to distribute this liquor within the county. From Uasin Gishu County, I'm Mercy Kandie.
Right now, as more people die today, we speak to Chairman of NACADA, John Mutudho. Thank you very much for joining us this evening.
Good evening, viewers.
Now, it's interesting because almost just around the same time last year in May, the country was reeling from another of these incidents. And if I can go back to September, you did come here to KTN. And I remember one of the things you said was that, you know, this we're seeing are the last kicks of a dying horse.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I did say that.
And now here we are with another incident. Is NACADA sleeping on the job?
Without a blink of the eye, I would say that the management is sleeping on the job.
The management of NACADA?
Yes, it's sleeping on the job.
Okay.
At board level, you give policies, you make policies. One of such policy was to check out all the drinks in the Republic of Kenya. By that time, we had 3,300 types of drinks, and we have them in our possession. Now I hear they're about 9,000, I'm not sure. We were supposed to go to the labs and then critically analyze the ingredients of each of the alcoholic drinks in the market. That way, those people who wish to drink will drink and party and there's nobody to die. From May of last year up until today, in our 16th floor, we are holding well over 2,000 brads. And the management, we approved about 20 million shillings to the management, 20 million shillings, not 20 shillings. For the testing, and we have been at the board talking and pressurizing, and you see, because I'm a chairman,
yes,
I cannot go now and take quotations and then go and fight as a laboratory or something. Management is not responsive, and that's what is driving me crazy most of the time. If you realize the kind of management we are having now in NACADA, and also at the office of the president, is such that you are supposed to take a position when you are responsible enough to perform your job. John Mutudho is supposed to do the NACADA thing. And if you have a problem, like the president said today, solve the problem there. You don't have to keep on referring and passing the buck to somebody else.
So are you solving the problem at NACADA?
Yes, we have solved the problem. But the problem with NACADA is that it appears like a position there, which is very critical, is owned by a certain tribe. So that tribe should now come and give us another candidate if we must move forward, because we can't sit forever waiting for somebody who is not responsive to come and continue year in, year out, every day talking about the same language. Under the management strategies that we took that particular time, number one, check out all these drinks and analyze them critically. 386 parameters which are measurable in every drink.
So a lot of things that should be done are not being done, and you seem to be pointing to the management of NACADA as having failed at this. And there's been quite a few tussles. We saw recently that there was a disagreement between you and the board over the suspension of the CEO. What's that about?
There's this exciting adage in Kiswahili, ukitaka kujua umbwa ni wa nani, mchape. When we did what we did because of 99 million shillings,
yes,
I did not expect members of the board to behave the way they behaved.
Had you consulted with them on this?
I was acting on recommendation from the audit committee.
Right.
NACADA operates through a committee system, and there are 4 committees. So I have in my possession a memo written to me by the audit committee accusing me of not taking action. On the other hand, I have a press report, a press brief from another section of NACADA saying that I should not act. So I'm at the middle. And just like any any player, you look at which side of the law are you relying on. The most powerful committee within NACADA is the audit committee. And this time is headed by a cleric, somebody Sheikh Juma Ngao. And Shuma Ngao put in very passionate memo to me, asking and really wanting to know, do I know more than I'm talking about? Why have I stayed for that long without taking action? So what we did is that you suspend pending investigations and passed on all that material to EACC. And if you call them, they'll tell you, yes, they have the materials. I also passed the same set of documents to Directorates of Criminal Investigation. I passed the same set of material to the presidency so that everybody knows the challenges that we are likely to have. Every year between April and August, we experience a lot of deaths.
So when some members of the board lambast you for a leadership style that they say allegedly disregards operational procedures and systems, where is the most miscommunication there?
I will say that they panicked because on 14th of this month, we had a board meeting, and they tried to persuade me to accept transfer of another 198 million shillings. 198 million shillings to fake NGOs. John Mutudho can't even pass a shilling, forget about 198 million. This is in respect with the 99 million which was supposed to go last year and then this year. That was the bone of contention. And then another 34 million to a management firm that's supposed to do this thing. We have passed all these things to the investigators, and I really as John Mutudho now, I cannot do more than
So you're saying your hands are tied, and you've made some quite serious allegations here, from tribalism, and now we're talking about the management problems. How is NACADA going to win the fight when it's fighting within? How are we going to stop deaths like these coming onto our screens every other day if there is this fight at NACADA?
The critical thing in epidemiology or study of any disease is identifying what is causing the disease.
Mm-hmm.
I'm candid. I'm looking at you straight into the eyes. I'm looking at Kenya, and I'm telling them the only reason we have that CEO seated there is that he comes from a certain tribe. You're
saying that this appointment of the CEO is
what we call tribal balance.
Mm-hmm.
It's anchored in our constitution. Now, what I'm saying, I really don't mind. He has a wonderful son who is a doctor. Let us have the son, or even the wife, or even the brother. To me, it doesn't matter.
So
but
is the tribe the problem, or the fact that he can't
It's not the
do
tribe.
the job?
I'm saying from the same tribe, I can have his son,
Mm-hmm.
or have his wife, or even have his uncle. It doesn't matter to me, because I cannot sit here in, year out. These are not numbers. These are real people who have died.
Yes.
They are husbands or some people.
Yes.
One of the people I've seen today in Thika just come from there. And incidentally, I've been to over 250 homes where people have died. I've never heard of my CEO visiting even one home or even attending any funeral.
So are you saying the problem at NACADA is the CEO?
Is the CEO, and I'm saying it very loudly. I don't mind losing my job, but I lose my job for doing my job. I don't lose my job for sleeping on the job, because in Naivasha I lost my job because I fought alcohol. I cannot now lose my job for not fighting alcohol. That would be double tragedy for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I do my job the way it's prescribed by law, and I don't see the big fuss. After all, the guy has not gone for leave for 3 years. Not even a single day. He has never gone for leave. Why can't he just go for 90 days to allow EACC, not John Mutudho, to allow Director of Criminal Investigation to go and do the investigation? If he's clean, he's clean. And the matter ends there.
All right. And of course, it will be important for us to get the other side of the story as well. But thank you very much for coming on and sharing your very candid opinions with us this evening. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're watching KTN Prime. We're going to take a quick break. Stay with us. Welcome back to KTN Prime. The Kiambu Senator Kimani Wamatangi led a group of MCAs from the county to seek the Senate's intervention over alleged abuse of power by Governor William Kabogo. The members are accusing the governor of diverting money that was meant for development projects towards the purchase of vehicles. Patrick Amimo reports.
Members of the Kiambu County Assembly are concerned about the passage of the county's Supplementary Appropriation Bill number 3 of 2015 with respect to funds allocated for purchase of vehicles by the county government. The bill was submitted to the County Assembly in March, requesting approval of 221 million for purchase of 72 vehicles. Through public participation, residents proposed a reduction of the number of vehicles. The petitioners, led by their Senator Kimani Wamatangi, says the Budget Committee of the Assembly recommended the reduction of the vehicles from 72 to 15. However, they accused the governor of declining to assent to the bill as amended.
It was noted that it didn't correspond with the reduction in the amount they had allocated for the 72 cars, because the same amount for the 42 cars remained at 221 million.
That this money was initially intended for development expenditure, specifically to roads. And then it was diverted for the purchase of vehicles, Chair, which itself is an anomaly. Even in the current budget for this year, the county government has gone ahead and allocated another 120 million towards the purchase of the same to make sure that they complete the 72 vehicles.
The petitioners argue the Kiambu governor abused Section 24 of the County Governments Act that allows governors to return a bill to the Assembly with a memorandum. Those opposed to the amendments proposed by the governor are required to raise 2/3 of all members of the County Assembly to reject the amendments. They claim raising the numbers has not been easy since their nominated colleagues often support the governor's proposals to push through his agenda even if it's unpopular.
Well, our main concern here, really, on number 11 on your document, is to find out if there is an abuse, deliberate abuse of the powers of the governor to circumvent the Constitution.
They want the Senate to intervene, including considering possible amendments to the County Governments Act. The Kiambu senator also questioned the amounts allocated to computer literacy in the county.
In that budget, which we have a copy, and it is important that we bring it also to the attention, there is a highly contested allocation of an initial 456 million for ICT. 456 million, which was later, upon a lot of arguments, whittled down to about 240 million. Chair, an allocation that had no merit, that had no support, and yet it has been pushed there by force. 240 million.
The Senate's Finance Committee has promised to investigate the complaints and present its findings within 60 days. Patrick Amimo, KTN.
A warm welcome to KTN Business. Time to catch the latest of what's been making headlines in the world of business. My name is Abi Agina. Kenya's tea output has dropped by 27% in the first quarter of 2015 on the back of reduced rainfall. Data from the Agriculture, Fisheries and Food Authority indicates that the output fell to 81.7 million kgs of black tea between January and March from 111.9 million kgs in 2014. The reduced output had a positive effect on tea prices, with the Mombasa auction averaging 291 shillings per kilogram in last week's trading. In 2014, the global tea market was hit by a glut that saw prices drop to 198 shillings per kilogram. The dry weather conditions that most tea-producing regions experienced between late last year and April this year have been blamed for the low production. Kenya is among the world's top exporters of black tea. Exporters have experienced a massive windfall, with the shilling still struggling against the dollar. Tea exports are a major source of dollar inflows to the country, with the past oversupply having affected income. Should the tea prices rally continue, it could go a long way in stabilizing the shilling, which is currently hovering at 99 shillings against the dollar. Kenya Power has signed a 3.2 billion shillings deal with Kenyan farms for the upgrading of 12 substations across the country. Kenya Power has been paying out an estimated 7 billion shillings annually to source input materials abroad, with little if any consideration given to local dailies. To local companies. The deal with local farms comes at a time when Kenya Power is on an ambitious expansion plan with the last mile connectivity program.
Over 7 local farms are set to benefit from Kenya Power's substation upgrade projects and construction of additional power distribution lines. Powergen Technologies Limited, Ezitech Limited, Empower Installation Contractors Limited, Histoto Limited, Lomas and Lomas are some of the local farms that have signed contracts with the power distribution company in what has been termed by Kenyan Build Kenya to give opportunity to local companies.
I'm challenging them not to embarrass me, because it would be such an embarrassment for KPSC to receive shoddy work from our locals. So they must put their best foot forward and deliver these projects not only on time, but in good shape and good quality.
The signing of the 3.2 billion shilling contracts is also to meet the ever-growing demand for electricity connections, improving reliability as well as cut on load shedding in Nairobi, Mombasa, Machakos, Nakuru, Thika, Eldama Ravine and Naivasha that are mostly affected by irregular schedules.
Between 20 March 2013, to date, we have connected an additional 1.2 million customers.
80% of Kenya Power's procurement budget was spent on foreignly purchased materials from India and China to the tune of 6.2 billion shillings, and the local companies were sidelined, hence the focus being turned to local firms.
We have no choice. We have to grow our own. This country can only be developed by our own local contractors. Nobody will develop us.
A distribution master plan study done by UK company Parsons and Brinkerhoff proposed upgrading of existing substations, construction of new voltage distribution lines, and supply of energy-saving bulbs to ensure reliable power supply at required standards. Currently, only 40% of Kenyans have access to electricity, leaving the bigger population unserved. Joy Doreen Bira, KTN Business.
Many thanks there, Joy. And still keeping local, the growth of domestic consumption in Kenya has in the recent past been fueled by an expanding middle class, therefore enabling homegrown manufacturers of fast-moving consumer goods to expand their business lines. On this week's Adventurer, KTN's Charles Gitonga speaks to Harold Bangera, founder of the Flame Tree Group, that has expanded its portfolio from tanks and lotions to now include spices and edibles on what it takes to grow in the Kenyan market. Take a look.
Kenya's domestic consumption has grown by 33% over the last 10 years, therefore giving ready market for producers of consumer goods. This week on The Adventurer, we speak to the founder of Flame Tree Group, the manufacturers of water tanks and fast-moving consumer goods.
My name is Harold Bangera. I'm the CEO of Flame Tree Group. Flame Tree Group is in a number of businesses, in plastics, in FMCG, and in trading. Yeah, Flame Tree started with our first company, which was Rotomolders. We started manufacturing plastic water tanks. That was about 25 years ago. I was 18 years at that time. Those days, there were only steel tanks in the market, and we were one of the initial people who started manufacturing plastic water tanks. And while we expanded our business and saw opportunities in other locations, and we expanded our business into other countries, we felt there was opportunity to manufacture FMCG products. And within FMCG, the first thing we made is a brand called Zoe, the Zoe lotions. We saw more opportunities within FMCG, expanded into other things, including manufacture of synthetic hair with a brand called Ciora, and with snacks, a brand called Happy's. And we now recently acquired another company with brands in spices called Nature Zone and Chigs.
25 years ago, how did you go about setting up your business?
At that time, I was a very young boy, and I think the younger you are, the more optimistic you are, and the less you know about business, so you're willing to take risks. I saw an idea. I spoke to my father because I was still a student. I didn't have the money. He helped me, although it was considered really as a hobby, really not that as a serious business. So we put in very little money to start the business. And at that time, I remember I thought if we could sell 4 tanks a month, it would be a business. Today, we sell hundreds of tanks a day. So I think we've gone a far way from what we initially thought. For us, our dream is to create a multinational, an African multinational that manufactures products in Africa for Africa. That's our theme for the company. We felt that if we had other shareholders to join in our growth, it would be a company that would live beyond me and beyond the initial. So I felt listing was one of the routes that we could use.
So many businessmen are afraid of listing their companies at the Nairobi Securities Exchange. Maybe you can tell us how you conquered that kind of fear.
For us, one of the ways to grow, we used the NSE listing as our route. That's not the only necessary route. There can be other routes that people can do. But to the people who encounter the requirement of a route of listing, I tell them not to fear. I think listing in itself
brings other advantages. I think the challenge that I've had is the same challenge every entrepreneur has, is the challenge of raising capital. We started with a very small capital base. As you grow your business, banks are very reluctant to lend money to you. So for us, I think getting money has been the biggest challenge. How we have grown our businesses over the years has been through internal funding of profits, which is a very slow and difficult way, and I feel that's been the biggest challenge. If you feel you want to do a business, or you feel you're entrepreneurial enough, I think the first thing is to just start.
Starting a company at only 18 years of age and building it to a billion shillings business empire is by no means an easy task. But ask Henry Bangera and he will tell you that any time is a good time to set up a company. Charles Gitonga for The Adventurer.
Many thanks there, Charles. Indeed, any time is important to set up a company. Let's take a look at how the shilling performed. Despite the recent increase in the central bank rate, the shilling is still under pressure from the rebounding US dollar. The local unit touched 99 shillings to the dollar, prompting Central Bank of Kenya to sell an unspecified amount of dollars directly in the money markets to mitigate further weakening. And while the shilling gained ground today, analysts anticipate the shilling will weaken further and could even breach the psychological 100 shilling mark in the short term. They say the drop will be fueled by the strengthening of the US dollar brought about by the planned increase in the US federal bank rate later in the year. On top of this, the country is witnessing the exit of foreign investor participation at the Nairobi Securities Exchange as they seek the high returns offered by developed markets. Let's take a look at how your money performed in our financial report. Well, that brings us to the end of our business news for today. And tomorrow, of course, the Nairobi Securities Exchange will be having their annual general meeting where we'll be seeking more perspectives on why the shilling is weakening and what incentives they have for investors to invest in the NSE. My name is Abi Agina. Do have a lovely evening. Coming up next is sports.
Our sport day has been a very good evening and welcome to today's edition of KTN Sports. My name is Moses Wahisi. Today we start on a football note where coastal side Bandari FC signed 2 players ahead of the Kenya Premier League second leg match against KCB this Saturday. The Dockers have finished the first leg on the 10th position with the 20 points, having lost 5 matches and won a similar number.
Bandari has been unable to find their footing in the Kenyan Premier League this season. The side has only won 5 matches from the 15 matches they played during the first leg. And head coach Twahir Muhyiddin is under pressure to reverse the downward trend during the final leg.
Tungependelea sana kwa katika nafasi 5 bora msimu ukiisha. Na tunajitayarisha vilivyo. Kuna wachezaji ambao walikuwa hawana uzoefu wa ligi kuu na wameshaupata.
In an effort to ensure the side puts aside its dismal show, they have signed 2 players who will replace John Dirangu and Mohamed Mwachiponi, who have since left the team. Muhyiddin is optimistic his side will improve in the second leg, which starts this weekend. Bandari leaves Mombasa on Thursday for their Saturday match against Kenya Commercial Bank KCB, handled by former Bandari coach Rashid Shedu in Nairobi.
Tumeahidiwa kwamba vijuzi walifanya mtihani wao Nairobi, kwamba kutakuwa na marekebisho fulani katika mambo ya uamuzi, sababu sio sisi peke yetu, ni timu nyingi zimelia na kuna ushuhuda kwamba jambo hili la uamuzi linafaa kupatiwa ni kipaumbele.
The players are in the right frame of mind to finish among the top 8 teams while improving last year's 13th place finish.
Na kwa ngumu ile awamu ya pili naweza kusema, kwa sababu watu wameshaona pia mapungufu yao, nini wanahitaji kuboresha nafasi zao, na wale ambao wanawania nafasi zile 8 bora wanazidi kuwa wagumu. Kwa hivyo haitakuwa rahisi, na sisi tutajitahidi vilivyo kwa sababu tuna shabaha ya kutekeleza.
Bandari are on a winning mood after they edged out Savannah 2-0 last Sunday to advance to the second round of the GoTV Shield Cup at Mbaraki Sports Club. Hassan Juma, KTN Sports.
Youngsters are drawn from 4,000 secondary schools across the country will have a chance to showcase their footballing skills in this year's Airtel Rising Football Tournament. The youngsters will also have a chance to meet Airtel Football Ambassador and the African Player of the Year, Yaya Toure.
Football is no doubt the most popular sport in Kenya, and over the years, different initiatives targeting school-going boys and girls have seen the development of the sport in the country, and the Airtel Rising Stars is one such platform. The tournament, which enters the 5th year this year, has seen over 4 million youngsters take part in the competition in the past. Last year, the competition saw 3 selected boys and girls take part in football skills training in Tanzania, and the organizers who launched this year's tourney at Upper Hill High School are looking forward to training more participants with more attention paid to girls.
Young boys and girls to go for their dream and get to the continent stage. And that's what Airtel is promising with Airtel Rising Star.
This launch brings excitement to the tournament and hope to our players that apart from playing, the game can take you places.
The tournament, which has produced top stars in the country, including Gor Mahia's Michael Olunga, is set to witness 4-time Africa Player of the Year Yaya Toure grace the finals.
This year we'll try to bring in the Africa star Yaya Toure, who is now the brand ambassador for Airtel in Africa. Yaya really embodies our tagline, "It's now." Yaya has come from normal upbringing in Ivory Coast to become the most admired African footballer on the world stage.
Kitu tu ningependa kuwa-urge ni waweze pia kuenda into more countries in Africa so that talent ikue everywhere in Africa, because Africa sasa unaona kwa football wise unaona European nations imedominate na South Americans, but Africans bado tuko highly ranked.
The football initiative will run for 2 months in different regions before the national finals are staged on the 8th of August in Machakos. Robinson Okenye, KTN Sports.
The cheers of football fans have replaced echoes of gunfire in Tripoli this Ramadan in a charity-organized tournament that is aimed at giving Libyans a break from the relentless conflict. Dozens of eager spectators turned out for an 8-a-side game featuring young amateurs and former professionals in the capital, the second of the 3 organized by the local charity.
In association with Morteen Dew.
Mama has Morteen Dew, which makes mosquitoes go away and not come back the whole night. So you get a peaceful night's sleep all night long.
Morteen Dew. A peaceful night is a Morteen Dew night.
Well, it's time for us to wrap up this edition of KTN Prime. Let's go back to our big queue and give you the results. We asked you tonight whether you thought the Mumias Sugar bailout was politically motivated. And we have the results for you. 65 of you say yes, and 35% say no. Thank you for sharing your opinions with us this evening. This SMS came in from Daudi in Bungomba. You say, no, this had to happen. We could not let Mumias sink, as good sugar in supermarkets is always Mumias. All right. And we've got a tweet here as well. This one coming in from Itonde. Samson Tumbo, you say, the government of Kenya should have fought and won the war against cheap sugar imports and charged the suspected looters of Mumias. That was the right action to take. Meja Mwangi, thanks for your tweet. And you say, when will this culture of politicizing every single thing end? Kenyans, let's wake up. Well, thank you very much for being a part of the program tonight and, of course, for participating as well in our poll. That's it for now. Our sign language interpreter tonight was William Silla, and I'm Nancy Kachungira. JKL is up next. Do have a fantastic evening. Good night.